All right, what's up, guys? We are back here with another movie review. We are continuing to review all of Stephen King's adapted movies and every sequel that entides to that. And now we are going on to another one of his movies, Graveyard Shift. This is possibly one of my least favorite Stephen King stories, and I didn't even like the book. I read Skeleton Crew, which is the short story book that this was on, and this was the one that I always hated. And I cannot believe they made a movie into it. This movie is really bad. I'd put it up there with Mangler bad. Oh, what's the Mangler? Well, the Mangler is about a possessed washing machine that kills people. Oh, yeah, we're going to get to review that one because guess what? That's another Stephen King story. Oh, and don't even get me started on that miniseries, Storm of the Century. That's got like 4 parts and it's like 4 hours long. Oh my God, that is one of the worst things I've ever watched. The one I'm excited though, I'm really excited for it. It's possibly one of my all-time favorite Stephen King movies. And it's a miniseries. And it got a sequel called The Diary of Ellen Rimbauer, which was actually really not that good. I didn't like it. And we'll have to review that one too. But Stephen King's Rose Red. Very, very, very underrated movie. So, yeah, Stephen King's Graveyard Shift. What the fuck is this about? So I've decided that I am going to go over movies' plots. But when they're shitty movies, I'm just going to give a summary of the movie. Well, if I simply don't feel like spending an hour talking about a movie that I don't like or that I mildly like, if I just don't feel like it, I'm just going to give a short summary, which basically the same thing, but it's going to cut off me having to talk about it for 20 minutes over a movie that I really don't like, which is what I'm going to do here. Now, this movie does, in fact, have another one of my favorite actors. I can't remember the name, but you guys are going to know who this is. He plays the exterminator guy in this movie, and he also does the voice for Chucky, I believe, and I believe he was oh god damn it, he also played the character for that died. He plays Chucky's character, but he also plays the sheriff in the Rob Zombie Halloween remakes, and he also plays that nut job scientist from that shitty alien movie Resurrection. Those are pretty much the movies that I know he's in off the top of my head. Yeah, those are the movies that I remember the most him being in. Because I remember that scene from Alien Resurrection where he kisses the glass and the aliens on the other side. That is the dumbest shit. Oh my god, I can't wait to review all of Ridley Scott. I am going to eventually do all of Ridley Scott's movies. And when we get to... that was directed by... Shit, who directed Alien Resurrection? Was it James Cameron? Joss Whedon? I believe it was one of those guys. But, oh, I can't wait to get to Alien Resurrection, because Alien Resurrection, it being a bad movie, it's one of those movies that it's so bad it's good. It's got some legitimately... Now, it's a serious toned movie, but it's so bad that it's fucking hilarious. There's some really horribly directed scenes that I laugh my ass off at every time. Specifically the part where he kisses the glass and the alien like hits it. It's so stupidly directed. And oh god, the plot holes in that movie. So these things have acid blood, right? And it can melt through the hole. So why are they keeping them in a meltable room? I never got that. Like, the plot holes in it. Oh man. Don't even get me on Superman Ripley. Oh my god. I don't even understand that movie.
Not to mention it's got Tuco from Breaking Bad in it. Yeah, Tuco, I believe that was one of his first like roles, but Tuco from Breaking Bad is in it too. It's also got Winona Ryder, Sigourney Weaver, the guy from this movie. I believe it has Hellboy in it. I can't remember correctly. It's also got that one guy from Revolution, one of the scientist guys from the first season. You guys know who I'm talking about. Um, it's got a bunch of famous people in it. It's just not that good a movie. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else notable in it. I wish I could remember actors' names. Well, other than A-list actors like Winona Ryder and Sigourney Weaver. But yeah, Graveyard Shift. So this movie is about this cotton plant or whatever, and the boss of the cotton plant has a couple workers stay behind because there was like a death at the cotton plant, so they're like cleaning it up. They think it's a safety hazard, so he needs some people to stay back so they can like fix the place up over the weekend. And they go in the basement, and there's all these rats around, and so they get stuck down in this basement. So they keep going. There's like a cave system under the building. They keep going down in this cave system, and eventually we got like, I don't know, 7 or 8 people to kill off. And Sandy, come here. Anyway, we got like 7 or 8 people to kill off. And pretty much all this movie is just a bunch of people getting killed off by rats and shit. It's the dumbest shit. Oh yeah, and when they get deep enough in the cave, they have this big, well, I guess the boss of the place goes down there with them. And at one point in the movie, they hire the exterminator guy, which is the guy I was talking about before, to get rid of the rats, but he ends up getting like crushed by a rock or something, if I remember correctly. I didn't go back and watch this movie because I remembered it fairly well because it was so bad. So I didn't really need to go back and review it. It's been about a month since I've seen it. It hasn't been that long, so I'm not really having that much trouble remembering shit. So anyway, yeah, he ends up getting killed, and then I guess the boss goes down in the fucking place eventually, and he goes nut job, and him and the main character have this like big old battle, and they find this giant rat with bat wings, and I forget what happens there. I think they end up killing it, and then movie over. It's truly an awful movie. It's just a bunch of people getting killed by rats. It's fucking terrible. Probably one of my least favorite next to Cujo and Thinner. Now, another Stephen King movie that a lot of people hate, but I personally think it's another one of those movies where it's so bad it's good because it's got a lot of really quotable lines in it. Maximum Overdrive. It's got AC/DC for the soundtrack, and it's got some really quotable lines for me, like one of my favorites is when the chick walks out of the diner. We made you! And then she ends up getting shot by that like chain gun or whatever. There's a lot of really quotable lines in that. And I kind of consider Maximum Overdrive to be one of those movies where it's so bad it's good. So. And it's also got some pretty memorable kills. I mean, there's some pretty decent kills in it and memorable ones. Like, for example, the one I always remember was the dude getting shot in the head by the soda can at the ballpark. I thought that was all getting killed by the soda machine. I always love that kill. And then another one of the kills that I always remember because it was because it was just so cheesy and couldn't have possibly happened. It was I guess the kid's like riding through town and he sees the dog has like a toy car lodged in its throat and it's like dead.
It's one of the dumbest animal deaths I have ever seen, but there's like a dog on the side of the road with a fucking big ass toy cop car in its mouth, and it's just hilarious to look at. I mean, that movie is just something I consider so bad it's good. Okay? If I ever, which I will eventually review Maximum Overdrive because it's another Stephen King movie, I'm probably going to give it a guilty pleasure because it's legitimately a bad movie and it's just fun to watch. So, yeah. So Graveyard Shift, I'd probably give it I'd give it a D because as bad as it is, I don't think it deserves a fucking terrible because I saved that rating for movies like Thinner, Cujo, and The Mangler. Some of the worst, boring Stephen King movies I've ever seen. And I'd even go as far as to put all the Sometimes They Come Back Again sequels, but I don't think anybody's going to argue with me there. No, it's not the worst Stephen King movie, but it's probably not my favorite. So, yeah, Graveyard Shift. Yeah. So remember, leave a comment, like, and subscribe. Now, I'm waiting about 2 or 3 weeks to go back and watch The Shining, because in about 2 or 3 weeks I'm going to go see Doctor Sleep, and then after I see that I'm going to review it. But until then, I can't review it. So I'm holding off on the Shining movies because I know you guys are probably like, well, those are iconic. You should have done this first. Well, I can't until Doctor Sleep comes out because it's the sequel to The Shining. So remember, leave a comment, like, and subscribe.